Greetings, online students. This will be Lecture 2. It contains all of the information to finish up all of Week 1's information. Lots of little gems included in this lecture. I advise you to go through it slowly, stop it as needed. It's taken from campus lectures in which there's a lot of interactive participation. I encourage you to get your keyboard out and work right along with the class. It will probably be very helpful to you. So here comes Lecture 2. Enjoy. Please don't hesitate to send questions to your instructors via FSO. See you on the other side.
Righty, so welcome to Lecture 2. All right, let's talk about some keyboard basics here. Generally speaking, this isn't rocket science. Just want you guys to see, general principles of what should be going on. I want to see if I can make it any brighter, Merdad. Anyway, so keyboard basics, sitting at the keyboard, generally speaking, your arm should be parallel with the keys. So what I don't want to see in your practice videos, for your own benefit, I don't want you to get hurt. If you're at your keyboard, I don't want to see this. If you're standing and rocking it out, that's a little different. That's not too bad, but it's still, the point is, you don't want to bend your wrist severely in either direction. You should be roughly parallel. Your forearm should be roughly parallel with the keys, not this or that severely, okay? That's all I'm getting at. No biggie. Look at that hand position. That's just so lovely. The thing that I find frustrating about these are still photos. Your hand is constantly in motion when you're playing. While that is a lovely and dang near perfect position for a hand, it changes constantly. If I'm playing, I'm moving around, and this isn't even full size. When I'm moving around on a full-size keyboard, your position changes, but the point is you don't want extremes. You don't want to hurt anything. It's repetitive motion. You guys know all about ergonomics and repetitive motion. You have to be careful. So that's all that's about. Just to be clear, we talked about this briefly. We're just putting it in writing. A little confusing, but this is 1 when you're playing the piano. 2, 3, 4, 5, and they are mirror images. They don't look like this. They aren't the same going along. They're mirror images. Make sense? Like I said, this stuff isn't rocket science. We have been working on the fingering already. Many of your scales are going to go for right hand. 1, 2, 3, put your thumb under, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, not all of them. Obviously, we got to F major. We hit that B flat, and right away, we were not in that territory. But 6 out of the 12 scales, I think, I counted once. I'm not sure. I believe it's 6 out of 12 scales use this fingering. And the comparable, and coming back down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3 over. You guys have been doing that already. Questions? Shouldn't be a mystery. The left-hand version is just the mirror image. And when you're coming down, you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So left hand going up is going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 3 over, 3, 2, 1, right there. When you come back down, 1, 2, 3, thumb under, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't have to worry about that, about both hands, because all you need is one hand playing 1 octave of the scale up and down at 70 BPM with the correct fingering. Don't drive yourself nuts. It makes me crazy when students are like, yeah, this is a month I'm going to learn to play piano. Let me practice with both hands. No. Do that after you graduate. Now all the concepts were after. Just go with what I ask you, because there's plenty of stuff to learn, okay? Worry about learning to play the piano when you're done. This will just get you heading in the right direction. Questions? Okay. When it comes to triads, generally speaking, we're after that bear claw fingering, and this is a nicely stacked root position triad. Root, 3rd, and 5th. Just happens to be coincidental that you're using 1st, 3rd, and 5th finger of the right hand. If it's the left, it's 5, 3, 1. 5, 3, 1, same thing. It's a stacked triad. When you get to inversions, I'm not real worried about inversions. I want you to be comfortable. You can spend 2 years trying to figure out how to use the correct fingering that's comfortable for you with inversions. That's why I don't press you on that a whole lot. Here's the only thing I don't want to see is this. People who go, I'm playing a C triad. Look at where my thumb is. Okay? God gave us opposable thumbs for a reason. Use it. If you end up doing this, okay, not such a sin. At least your thumb's not tucked under, okay? But I would prefer, just for your diatonic triads, just to try and get a feel. I know for many of you are going to feel so weird, it's awkward. Yeah, it's because you haven't done it. Just bear claw them up. These are C diatonic triads. I'm just playing 1, 3, and 5. You know, it's almost like, and I don't want you to think of it as set in stone, because important concepts while you're playing are to be relaxed and to be flexible. So there's a minimal amount of tension. I can't just go like this or nothing happens. There's a certain amount of tension I have to hold my fingers to hold the shape. But if I have too much tension, I'm just in pain and nothing works. I got muscles clenched up. So you got to find the medium, you know, minimal amount of tension to be able to execute what's going on. Make sense? So triads, yeah, try and go with 1, 3, 5. Like I said, I'm not going to hunt you down so hard on that, especially when we get to inversions. Oftentimes, I see students naturally moving their fingers to what looks right, and I'd rather things felt natural for you, even though you all complain, not all of you. Many of you are like, wait, this doesn't feel right, and I will say, it's because you haven't done it before. Just run with it and do it. As far as inversions, don't sweat it. Do your best. When we're around doing lab stuff, ask individually if like this is okay, or if you're real concerned about it, don't go nuts. If your thumb's under, then I'm going to come after you. Make sure that thumb's on top, okay? We looked at this real briefly, our vocal basics. Obviously, solfege just compares to the scale degrees. And the nice thing about scale degrees is this little dealio up there, that little symbol, is called a caret. And that caret is specifically, in music theory, specifically read as the term scale degree. So that little thing stands for 2 words. If I write this, how do you read that? $4. To me, it always seemed like it should be read $4, but we don't read it that way. If you see this, that is read scale degree 1, scale degree 2. Just so you know, that's why those little carets are up there. You know, when you read any kind of theory books or any kind of theory papers or discussions, you're going to see that used, and that's what it means. So they just compare, obviously. Do is 1, re, mi, fa, so. You guys get it. It's not rocket science. We are using what's called a movable do solfege system. That means that do is always scale degree 1, regardless of what key you're in. Now remember, this is that happy little formula I went on about last lecture. What do we call those 4 notes? What did the Greeks, let me be more specific, what did the Greeks call this 4-note set here that consists of whole, whole, and half steps in that order? Tetrachord. If we put a whole step between and put another one, we end up with what we call a major scale. And it's formulaic. Formula is going to give you consistent relationships. And I keep saying that for a reason. It's going to make your life easier down the line. Related to that fact that it's a formula is because this is a movable... Speak much? Because this is a movable do solfege system, it keeps all the relationships intact in the formula, regardless of where we decide to place do. In other words, this can be do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. This can be do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Obviously, I changed pitch, but all the relationships are the same because it's a formula. And we're using a system to identify the pitches and help our ears identify pitches, where they go, what kind of pull they have within a melody that is also a movable system. Make sense? You guys know they're pronounced do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Questions? Super. All right, so just some sight singing basics. The first thing you want to do when you're looking at a piece of music, obviously, is figure out the time signature, key signature, and you want to interpret the rhythm. So obviously, what's our time signature? That's right there in front of us. What is it? We're in 4/4. What kind of meter is 4/4? Simple meter. Keep in mind, meter and time signature are not the same thing, but they are intimately related. But they're not quite the same thing. Meter is how we perceive groupings, strong and weak groupings of pulses that are felt. Meter gives us specific details on how to do the math of putting sounds in place, basically. Make sense? Okay. So, interpret the rhythm, that's easy enough. There's all the counting. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. You guys all good on that? What key are we in? We have 2 possibilities. It seems pretty obvious, but tell me the 2 possibilities anyway. What are the 2 possibilities for keys? Or E minor. Right, we know that. What's the most prominent note? What seems to be the focal point? Obviously, yes, G. And one of the giveaways that helps us is a leading tone right here before we come to a resting place. Leading tone is a really important note. I often go on about how when you hear a leading tone, you should have like fireworks. It's like somebody going, leading tone, leading tone, leading tone, leading tone. It's something should make you go, okay, leading tone. Because a leading tone is a point of high tension, and it desperately wants to resolve up by half step to 8. One of this month's mantras, 7 goes to 8, okay? So there's that leading tone to help us out. So yeah, obviously we're in G. What are the scale degrees? Scale degrees are going to be numbers. What's next? Next. Go on. Yep. Uh-huh. Dwee-oop, dwee-oops, leading tone, woo, woo. I'm telling you, you should twitch a little when you hear a leading tone, or even you look at one. It'll help. And what's last? There you go. So now let's do the solfege. What's next? Yep. Go on. Yes. Uh-huh. 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 Wee-oop, dwee-oop, dwee-oop. Ah, twitch, twitch. What's that last? Good. And 7 went to 8. Isn't that lovely? All right. Aside from knowing all that, that's going to help you realize music on the page. Remember, music does not happen on paper. Music happens in space and time. It doesn't happen on a page. And I have to remind myself of that periodically. What we're basically trying to aim you guys in the direction of doing in your ear training studies and skills is to look at a piece of paper and be able to have a hint, a clue of what's going on in space and time when that is produced out as music. In other words, it's that inner hearing thing. We want you to, you have it already. You have it, when you hear something, you can hear it back in your heads. So that's what audiation is. It's the ability to hear music in your head, make sense of it, perceive it intelligently as music. You know what's going on. You like it, you dislike it, you feel tension, you feel resolution in the music, but it's not actually happening at the moment. It doesn't physically exist as sound waves, but you can still hear it. We're just trying to get that to go in both directions so that you can look at paper and begin to start that to happen. So, aside from the solfege, which will help you, it's same as scale degrees, which will also help you. Thinking about the direction and the intervals between things is going to help as well, so let's look at that. We're going up a major second. What's next? That's do to re. What's re to mi? What's that interval? Jump. Come on, go for it. I heard another major second. What's next? Mi to fa. Ouch, mi to fa. Mi to fa is only a minor second. So let's pause for a second. Why is that going to be quick and easy to figure out every single time? When we constructed from tetrachords that formulaic scale setting, in one tetrachord there was only one half step. Therefore, when you put the two together, and we separated by a whole step, there's only 2 half steps in a scale, and it's formulaic. They happen in the same place in every single scale. You should never guess on that. Where are the half steps? Between what and what? And between what and what? 3 and 4? Ouch, so close, not 6. 7 and 8. So the half steps are between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. It doesn't matter what major key you're in. This is major key. Doesn't matter. It's a formula, remember? The guys who gave us headaches with trigonometry and right angles and all that jazz. It's a formula. It's never going to change. There's always going to be a half step between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8 in a major scale, and we're going to use that to our advantage. Okay, so we're going back down now. What's the interval now? Still a minor second. We're just going back from 4 to 3. What's next? Yep, what's next? Yep, and it should be pretty quick to think about this because you know that's the leading tone. Dwee-oop, dwee-oop, leading tone. What's happening? Yep, and the leading tone's going back. What's that interval? Bam! See how I want you to draw on the formula? You're going to get really quick at this once you realize it's a formula and you just spit this stuff out. So if I'm in polka dot major, what's the distance from 3 to 4? Minor second or half step. If I am in birthday cake major, what's the distance from T to do? Exactly. It's only a half step, so you get my point. It's formulaic. You can look in big general terms, and it's going to help you analyze stuff quickly. Okay? So then, let's try it. What the heck? Piano's not working. Whatever. Let's try this as a do. You know what? Just go for my hand first. Do. Can I hear your do? First hear it, do. Hear it in your head. First do. I'm wavering a little. Let's hear it out loud. Do. Try and hear it. Sing it out loud. Yeah, don't waver like me. Don't be like Kathy. Hit the pitch right on. Listen. Let me try and hit it right on. Do you. Go on. It's a major second. Do, re. It's a major third from do to mi. Go again. Do, re, mi, you. Mi, re, do. Re, mi, do. Do, so, do. Do, ti, do. Okay, give it your best shot. You have to now compute both the rhythm correctly and the solfege. So let's look at the rhythm first. 1, clap and speak rhythm. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, speak. 3, 4. Yeah, clap doesn't sustain, but we get it. Here's your do. Try it from the beginning. Ready, 2, 3, go. Do. Good, keep going. Go on, do. Half step, do. Interval recognition. Using the familiar song method. I don't know if you guys think this is hokey, but you shouldn't. I mean, even conservatories do this. It's just that the references might be a little off. You really need a reference for intervals. I keep swearing I'm going to make this a requirement that you have to hand in a list of your intervals, and what song you attach to them. But basically, if you have a song that has a really prominent interval, it's going to help you recognize that interval. And I often joke that I don't care if you got a Gucci Mane song that beats the daylights out of a major third. I don't need to know the lyrics sometimes. Point is, I don't care what you use as a reference, but get a reference. It's really going to help you, okay? And some of my references are old and dated because when Jesus was a boy, that's what I listened to. So Jaws does not help me much. Honestly, Jaws doesn't help me. If it helps you for a minor second, use it. I literally just go, can I fit anything between there? No, I can't fit anything in. It's a minor second. That to me sounds like do, re. Can I fit something in? I'm not sure that's a major second. Yeah, I could fit a second in there. So I know it's a minor second. That's how I do it. If you have a song that works as a minor second for you, Happy Birthday does not help me much, but it's in the pickup. Happy birthday, that's a major second. Technically, where's tonic in Happy Birthday? Can you sing do? Makes sense? That's tonic in Happy Birthday, right? So here's do, but it starts like this. Da, 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 da. Does it start on tonic? So that major second isn't on tonic. Can you figure out what it is? Da, da, here's happy birthday to you. Here's tonic, and here's where it starts. Bum, 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 bum. What's that interval? This is where it starts. This is tonic. That's a perfect fourth. Yay, go you, whoever said that. So, if it begins a perfect fourth below tonic, what scale degree, or even better yet, solfege is that? Scale degree 5, what is that in solfege? So, it goes so, la, so, How do you know? And he said, I don't know how to find do. How do I know? answer is you need a reference point. You can't just go bum bum and go, okay, that was do to fa, I'm in. No, you need to hear the whole song. You need a reference point. You can't just figure out do from here in a couple notes. Okay? So I have to go bum 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 bum. There's do, right? You with me? There's do. Do you see how I had to go through the whole thing to figure out where do is? You just can't pull do out of the air. You got to look at the whole, because it's a set of relationships. Okay, so I figured out there's do. So the help perfect fourth goes bum bum, and this is do. What a surprise. Same relationship as happy birthday. What is it? Bum bum. What's that interval? So close. Be careful. It's a perfect fourth. So, do, me, re, do. Something that I'm not going to figure out right now. So, do, me, re, do. It's in minor, right? So it was the same thing with so to do. So to do is a perfect fourth, but so is do to fa. You got to be careful. They're the same exact interval. Honestly, personally, I think they sound a bit different. And there's scientific reason we can argue on about that, but I don't want to go there. To me, a perfect fourth, it's do to fa. In context, in a song with harmony going on, sounds a little different to me than a perfect fourth that goes so do. Just saying. You can mull that over. Look it up if you think I'm nuts. Argue with me later, okay? So we left our heroes and heroines at major second. Lullaby, minor third. I personally have trouble hearing a minor third just in one direction. To me, it sounds different ascending and descending. Remember, a minor third descending is nya, 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 nya. Most often heard, not always though, because minor thirds occur all over the scale. The one that I'm used to hearing is so, mi, so, mi, la, so, mi. But, for example, do to la is also a minor third, so you got to be careful with that, too. Lullaby helps me with their ascending minor third. I will bang my head on an ascending minor third and not get it right. Lullaby and good night, right? Ring a bell? You guys got to have some song that goes to all the intervals. Oh, when the Saints does absolutely nothing for me. You guys got one for major third that helps you? When the Saints help you? That's good. Da, 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 da. I can't reproduce these pitches real well because of my voice, but da, 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 da. That first interval is a major third. My reference is a classical symphony. What helps me with major thirds is Michael row the boat ashore. That's do, mi, so. What else? Kumbaya is right at the triad. Do, mi, so. Generally speaking, I hear a major third as going up the triad, aside from my classical symphony reference, which doesn't help you guys at all. Here Comes the Bride. I think everybody knows that one. Some people use the Harry Potter. I also like Hark the Herald Angels Sing. That's a perfect fourth, too. Everybody knows The Simpsons, right? You guys know West Side Story? It's filled with tritones, and they're remaking it into yet another movie again. But it's filled with tritones. What kind of an interval is a tritone? I didn't ask the question very well. Is a tritone a consonant or dissonant interval? Extremely dissonant. And Bernstein, who was the composer, filled the rumble, which is the fight, with tritones all over the place. They're fighting and stabbing and doing nasty things. Exactly, that too. Twinkle, twinkle. ABCD, perfect fifth. Some people use Star Wars. Who was it? You, Devin? Who was saying that? Somebody was saying that you have to be careful with Star Wars because there's more than one theme that kind of mangles around. Be careful. Make sure you got the theme that is a direct perfect fifth. Bum, bum. The Entertainer. One of my least favorite songs on the entire planet is a, minor sixth. Anyway, it beat the daylights out of a minor sixth. It was called Love Story, and somebody told me it's been sampled. Like, people have recognized it because it's been sampled into something. Star Trek just confuses the hell out of me. Does nothing for me. What is that, a minor seven? Does that help you guys? There's so many Star Trek themes with big intervals in them. Doesn't help me. So you guys need to find something for minor seven. Honestly, for me, I hear it as a dominant seventh chord trying to resolve. Even if it's not, I still hear it that way. For example, I'll show you. I'm in C major. Right? So here's my C major. Here's my G7. See how that resolves? I'm going 5th scale degree, up a minor 7th, which is the 4th scale degree, so to fa. And 4 goes to 3. So I'll show you visually. There's 4 going to 3. That's how I hear minor 7th. Whatever works for you guys, you got to find something that really will help you. Somewhere Over the Rainbow I find very sketchy for an octave because song stylists screw it up and do any kind of interval they want, but whatevs. Be careful with an interval. I'm sorry, an octave. Cool? You guys got any others that work like really well that you never fail on? You got any in your back pocket? Get some. What do you get? Good one. Excellent. If only I could sing that, but I know what you mean. I skipped a major 7 for some reason because Superman doesn't help me either. That one, I'm going to start using that because that's a good one. Did you hear me say Take On Me? I literally will go up to the octave to decide whether it's a major 7th or not. The larger intervals get a little tougher. That's a good one. Duh. Any thoughts or comments, questions? We good? All right, moving on. Chord qualities, you blew through those in lab, but you're going to have those in Aurelia, major, minor, diminished, and dominant 7th coming up. Okay, so those are the chord qualities that you're seeing, right? But I want to talk a little bit about each one of them and how they relate to functional harmony. This is why I set you up with that whole little discussion about what is functional harmony. There were no rules in place at Bach's time. They were starting to form rules. I'm talking Johann Sebastian. They were starting to set rules in place, and by late Mozart, which was the 1800s, they pretty much said, okay, here's the rules and regs, here's the standard way we're going to use harmony and think about harmony and expect harmony to do things or function or have a job, okay? So in a diatonic setting, let's talk about how the chord qualities relate to functioning or doing a job in functional harmony. Where are the major chords in a diatonic setting in a major key? 1, 4, and 5. Makes sense? The 1 chord. We're going to wonder what its function is because it's got a job. The 4 chord or subdominant and the 5 chord or dominant chord. Fancy names. Tonic, subdominant, dominant. Subdominant because it's right below dominant. Again, what are the jobs? What's the job of tonic, generally speaking? What do you guys think? Say again? I got you. Set the tone. It's home base. It's the place where you're like, okay, I'm cool, I'm resolved, there's no stress going on. I'm at home base. Oops. Let me go back. What about a 4 chord? What do you think its function is, roughly? And I'll guide you, just think in general terms. Tension or resolution? It's going to provide some tension. What about 5? It's going to provide a lot of tension. So here we go. A tonic chord is home base. It's like a resting position, if you will. It's a point of resolution. 4 chord is a bit away from home. There is some tension in it, and that tension can seek resolution, but it does not have to head home. It can. You have seen plenty of progressions where 4 goes to 1, but it doesn't have to. It can also move up to more tension, or not. You've seen plenty of progressions go 1, 4, 1. Bam. Resolution, calm, tension, back to resolution. Or you've seen plenty of progressions go 1, 4, 5, 1. Home, little tension, more tension, back to home. That's all I'm getting at here. 5 chord is far away from home. It is lots of tension. Your 5 chord is one of the points of most tension, generally speaking, in the setup. It seeks resolution and points toward home base. What note does it contain? Dwee-oop, 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 dwee-oop. 5 chord consists of the 5th scale degree, the 7th scale degree, and the 2nd scale degree of the key you're in. Let's think in basic, easy, cheesy C major. If I play a G chord, which is the 5 chord, it's G, B, and D. That's the 5th, the 7th, and the 2nd scale degrees. Don't confuse that with the fact that the building blocks are a root, a 3rd, and a 5th. The root is G, the fifth scale degree. The third of the chord, component of the third of the chord, is the seventh scale degree of the key we're in, B. The fifth of the chord, the component, G, B, D, it has a fifth in it, is the second scale degree, D. Let's be better. Let me not play air there. Okay? Fifth scale degree, seventh scale degree, second scale degree, root, third, fifth, components as you're building the chord. So you got to be really careful when you're talking about that. And I try to be very careful and distinguish clearly which aspect I'm talking about, because you need to know about both. You with me? Cool. Okay, so that's what's going on there. In a diatonic setting in a major key, where are the minor chords? 2, 3, what else? Good. You should know that. You should have that tattooed on the inside of your eyelids. Why do we even care? Actually, you shouldn't, because it's easy. If I am in birthday cake major, where are the minor triads? Why? Why? Because it's a formula. Yes. You see my point? Doesn't matter what key you're in. 2, 3, and 6 are always the minor triads. So, technical name, the 2 chord is called supertonic because it's a step above tonic. I kid you not. We're going to wonder, what's the function of a 2 chord, do you think? Just tension or resolution? What do you think? It's going to be tension, but probably not as much as the 5 or the 4. And it's going to have a relationship to the 4 because it shares notes in the 4 chord. But we'll talk about that more in a second. The other one is the 3 or median chord, and I kid you not, the reason it's called the median chord is because it's halfway between 2 very important points, tonic and dominant. Directly halfway between C and G, in C major, for example, the halfway point is E. That's why it's called median. It's in the middle. It's halfway between 2 important points. What's its function? We talking tension or resolution? Generally speaking. There's going to be not much tension. There may even be resolution. Possible. And we'll talk about that in just a second. The last one is which chord? The 6th chord, or submedian. And here you go. I kid you not. This is why it's called submedian. The big pillars when you're talking diatonic harmony are the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. Do you know there are bajillion songs with 1, 4, and 5 chord? People have made gajillions of dollars with 1, 4, and 5 chords. They're the pillars. They're the concrete foundation that a million songs are built on, right? So 1 to 5, we know those are important. Halfway between is median. 4 is the other one. 4 chord up to tonic. That's another perfect 5th, but 4 chord is another important chord. Up to tonic, 4 to up to tonic. Halfway between is at the 6th scale degree. That's why it's called sub-median. It's halfway between below do down to 4, the other important chord. Make sense? Doesn't really matter. It's another thing you can just kick butt on Jeopardy. That's why it's called submedian. What's the submedian chord's function or job? What is it supposed to do? Tension or resolution? Deceptive cadence. What was that? It can be tension, but it's not going to be that tense because think of a deceptive cadence. What is a deceptive cadence? A 5 chord should go to 1, and what happens in a deceptive cadence? It goes to 6, and you do get some sense of relief, but it's not quite home base. See what I'm saying? It's the kind of thing I want you guys to think about. These are the jobs, the functions of the chords. It's functional harmony. How do they work together? And why do we care? What's the point of this? Why do you make music? Aside from wanting to make a nice living and have a home in Switzerland, what do you want your listeners to do? Bingo, you want an emotional reaction. Does not a deceptive cadence make you go, oh, wait, what? That's the point. I want you guys to think about what the functions are and learn to manipulate them to get the emotional response you are after. Okay? So it seems it's all technical, but there's an emotional connection side, and I just want you to get the technical down because it's going to help you manipulate everything. So, 2 chords, supertonic, is away from home base. It does have some tension, and it can be used to set up moving to more tension to the 5 chord. Dominant preparation. Frequently, progressions go 2 to 5. I'm talking Roman numerals, 2 chord to 5 chord. It's a very common progression. The 5-to-1 relationship is super incredibly important. It's the point of most tension to the point of home base. The quickest way to point to home base and not be at it, to make you really want to get to home base, is to hit a 5 chord. 5 chord goes, please, 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 please go to tonic. Okay? So that relationship of going from a 5 chord to a 1 chord is so important. Music theorists and composers and people who study it are even on as to how did we get to the 5 chord in the first place. That is an important principle. It's called dominant preparation or a predominant chord. They go on about that in music theory books and papers and so forth. So not just 5-to-1, but how did you get to the 5? Dominant preparation is really important. 2 chord is a very common dominant preparation chord. It's a little bit away from home, and it leads very nicely to a point of more tension. 3 chord is a bit away from home. There's some tension, but it shares 2 notes with tonic. Let's think easy, cheesy, and C. 1 chord is C, E, G. C, E, G. 3 chord is E, G, B. A 3 chord can serve as a substitute for tonic. It's not going to feel quite the same. Again, there's going to be a manipulation there. There's going to be some sort of emotional something going on because you didn't go to 1 if you use 3 as a substitute. It's similar to, it's not the same. It is not the same, don't get me wrong. But it's a similar, like, ha-ha, fooled you, that a deceptive cadence is. It can provide a way also to pass on to stronger tension to the 4 chord. A real common progression is 1, 3, 4, 1, or 1, 3, 4, 5, 1. Your 6 chord, also a bit away from home. Again, some tension, but this shares 2 notes with the tonic. That's why the deceptive cadence works. Again, tonic in C major. Let's think easy. C, E, G. 6 chord, A, C, E. So a 6 chord can serve as a substitute for tonic, and that's what a deceptive cadence is. It can also provide a way to pass through to stronger tension as well. In other words, strikes me that generally speaking, these guys can do several different things. It's kind of like, a person who can stand in one spot and go, I'm not moving my foot, but I can look there, and I can look there, and there, and there. You see what I'm saying? There's it's got like a lot more ability. These guys have a lot more ability to flip around and function a little differently. They can function it almost as tension and resolution, but it's not quite that easy. That's an oversimplification. Make sense? Common progression is to go from 1 to 6 to 4. As a matter of fact, one of your progressions is 1, 6, 4, 5. It's a common progression. Questions? Okay, we got, I jumped right to go into 7ths, but that's okay, because the 5 chord we talked about already is a dominant, as the dominant chord. This is different. The word, the number and designation 7th is in there. So this is a C7, right? And I will be pointing this out multiple times during the month, but note, be very careful with this. There is nothing between the C and the letter number, there is nothing between the C and the number 7. That indicates a dominant 7th quality chord, which we'll look at in more detail. That is structured by having a major triad with a minor 7th up from the root on top. Make sense? It is diatonic. A dominant 7th chord is diatonic. But be careful. In a diatonic setting, ignore this. Don't even think about this. It'll mess you up. Just think in a diatonic setting. Think and see if it helps you. Where is the only 5-7 chord formed? And it's in the answer. It's right in the description. It's right in its name. On the 5th scale degree. It's the only place where you can get a chord that is a major triad if you stay diatonic, where you get a major triad, and if you stay diatonic and add a 7th, you get a dominant 7th quality chord, major triad, minor 7th on top. That doesn't happen anywhere else. Just take my word for it. In a major key. Okay? So it's the dominant 7th chord. It's the only place. What's its job? You guys should have that one figured out by now. High tension. It's got the leading tone. Not only does it have the leading tone, it's got the 7th scale degree. Where's the other half steps in a scale besides 7 to 8? Come on, you guys know. Where's the other set of half steps? Half step, I should say. Where's the other half step? 4 to 3, or 3 to 4, whichever you're looking at it. Ignore the C7. In in the key of C, if we're playing a G7, not only do we have 4 to 3, we have 7 going to 8. See that? So here's your G7. And I want to go like this in the worst way. You know what? I'm going to eliminate the 5th of the chord of the G7, and I'm also going to let the root go, because we listened to it. We kind of have a sense of what key we're in. So I'm going to let the root go. Let the 5th go. Let the root go. What interval do I have here? It's a tritone. One of the most uncomfortable, tension-filled intervals is contained in this G7. Hang on to your seatbelts. Run with me. Is that going to be true in every major key? Every time I hit a dominant 7th chord that comes from that key? Think about it. Yes! Yay! Because if I'm in polka dot major, the dominant 7th chord has a tritone in it. If I'm in sky blue major, the dominant 7th chord has a tritone in it in the same exact location. Because all this stuff is formulaic. That's why I went on about this being a formula. Doesn't matter what key you're in. When you get to the 5th scale degree, you form the 5 triad and put a 7th on it diatonically. From the component of the chord, root 3rd, 5th, 7th, from the component of the chord that's a 3rd to the component of the chord that's a 7th, you will have a tritone. And why don't we look into detail on that now? Alrighty, let's play a G7 in root position, because we're in the key of C at the moment. G, B, D, F. Make sense? Let's hear a G7. G, B, D, F. I would go 1, 2, 3, 5 if I'm right-handed. Left-handed, 5, 3, 2, 1. Okay, drop out the G, which is the root. We know we're in C, so we can get away with it temporarily. Generally, you can't. You can get away with dropping the 5th out of a dominant 7th chord almost all the time. But don't worry about that. That's another problem. So we're left with what? In what order, low to high? Which 2 notes are we left with? B. No, we dropped out the 5th. We dropped out the G and the D. We dropped out the root and the 5th components of the chord. That left us with the 3rd, which is what note? B. And what's the 7th of the chord? F. Okay, good. B and F, that's a tritone. Remember, 7 wants to go to 8 in the worst way. What's your 7th scale degree? Nope, wrong one. That's the 4th scale degree. Leading tone. Doo-oop, doo-oop. What's your leading tone in this key? No, that's the 4th scale degree. We're in the key of C. What's the leading tone? B, 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 B. B like boy, okay? So B, 7 wants to go to 8 in the worst way. What note does B want to resolve to? Up to. B wants to go up to C in the worst way. 4 wants to go to 3. What's your 4th scale degree? It's the 7th component of the chord. F, and F wants to go to 3 in the worst way. So F wants to go where? To E. So play B, F. Resolve it to C, E. Don't you feel better? What nice resolution. You with me? Okay, so play your G7 full out, G, B, D, F. Good, and put it into first inversion. Put the G up on top. So things are going to get weird for the first time. Since we have a 7th, you're going to have notes close together, and that's okay. You're going to end up with B, D, F, and G, right? So now, as components of the chord go, you're starting with the 3rd of the chord, going to the 5th, the 7th, and then the root of the chord's on top. Let the root go, let the G go, let the 5th of the chord go, that's the D. What do you have left again? Let the G go and the D go. You have B and F again. How does it want to resolve? B to C, F to E. Resolve it. Thank you. Good. Play your root position, G7 again. G, B, D, F. Good. We put it up to first inversion. We went B, D, F, G. Play that inversion. We just did that. B, D, F, G. B, D, F, G. Good. We did that inversion already. Invert it one more time. Put the B on top. That leaves you with D, F, G, B. Got it? D, F, G, B. You got it? We can eliminate, we can drop out for the moment. We can drop out the root, which is G. The root of the chord is G. Drop out the G. We can always drop out the fifth, the component of a fifth. In this case, it's the D. Let the D go. What do you got left? What order? Low to high, what notes do you have? F and B. It's no longer B to F now. When we had B to F, that was a diminished fifth. Now we have F to B. What interval is that? It's an augmented fourth. Bingo, but it's still a tritone. Okay? So now be careful. Things are going to change now. You have F going up to B. You have the fourth scale degree, which is the seventh of the chord, and you have the leading tone on top. Smarty pants, you know where it's going. That's the third of the chord. Remember, 7 wants to go to 8 and 4 wants to go to 3. How does this resolve? Yeah, I'm hearing it. B goes up to C, F goes down to E. Do it. Yeah, you hear that? Coolio. All right, we got one more inversion left in a G dominant seventh chord. The last one we did was, I have to think about it. The last one we did was D, F, G, B. That's the one we just did. D, F, G, and B. Invert it one more time, put the D on top. Looks a little odd, but it's actually easy to form. It's a G triad with an F to start underneath it. F, G, B, D, right? Okay, cool. So, that may seem odd, but we got the seventh on the bottom. Let go of the G, we can do that. And let go of the D, that's the fifth of the chord. You can release the fifth and not damage the chord quality. Root, that's sometimes. What do you got left? F and B, the same way, and they resolve how? Outward. B goes to C, F goes to E. When we had it B to F, it resolved inward, it collapsed. So in a dominant seventh quality chord, if you will, hold up a sec, guys. In a dominant seventh quality chord, your first two, root position and first inversion, that tritone collapses inward to resolve. In first, second, and third inversion, the tritone moves outward to resolve, but you're still having 4 go to 3 and 7 go to 8. Make sense? That might seem like, yeah, okay, nice trick, nice parlor trick. That's going to become really important as you go down the line, that 7 goes to 8 and 4 goes to 3 in the tritone that's contained in every single dominant seventh quality chord, right? So, how many dominant seventh quality chords in a single major key diatonically occur? Only uno. And let's look at those functions. It is very far away from home. It has extra tension because it's got more tension than just a regular 5 chord. You added a minor seventh to the chord itself, and it gave you the fourth scale degree. It contains the leading tone, the seventh scale degree, and the fourth scale degree from the scale that you're working in. Make sense? We just went through that. Make sense? You had F and B. We were in the key of C. F is the fourth scale degree. B is the leading tone. That interval is a tritone. We all know it's one of the most unstable, most tension-filled intervals, and it wants resolution. It seeks resolution and points to home base. The method of resolution can vary later on. This month, we're going down I-95. Just want to let you know, I'm taking you down I-95 deliberately. It can resolve other ways. So I'm not saying cast and known forever and ever and amen. 7 goes to 8, 4 goes to 3. This month, yes, it does. We do not deviate from that. As you move further into more advanced theory topics, there are other ways to manipulate it and get around it. But for us, 7 goes to 8, 4 goes to 3. Amen. Cool? Got it? All right, coolio. It's a very standard resolution that happens a lot. The other resolutions that you'll come to later with more advanced theory topics are used and not quite as common as the regular 4 to 3, 7 to 8. And the only one we're missing is our poor little red-haired stepchild here, the diminished chord. Just kidding about the chord, not you, Maura. Where's our only diminished chord in a diatonic setting? The 7th scale degree, right. So, all right, we always use C as like a demonstration point. Well, this is going to hurt your brain. Figure this one out. If that is the diminished 7 chord, what key did this come from? That's the leading tone. The root is the leading tone. Remember, it's the 7 chord, the Roman numeral 7 diminished chord. What key? No, not D. That would be C sharp. You're right. What key? D flat major, right? Because a half step below is its leading tone. If we're in D flat major, ouch, don't even want to think in that key. Half step below is its leading tone, C. So yeah, I mean, theoretically, that's a really difficult example to look at. It would have been easy to look at B diminished because B diminished occurs as the leading tone chord in what key? What key is B diminished the leading tone chord? B like boy. Go for it. What key is B diminished the leading tone triad? C major, yeah. B is the leading tone. So that's just a tough example if you think through the theory. Anyway, we only have one. It's the 7 chord. It's also called a leading tone chord. There isn't a fancy name like subdominant or supertonic or anything. They just call it the leading tone chord. What's the function of the leading tone chord? What do you think? Tension or resolution? Yeah, good for you because it's got the leading tone in it. It is very far away from home in sound. It's got extra tension because it contains 3 of the same 4 notes that are in the 5-7 chord. 5-7 chord was G, B, D, F. The 7 chord is B, D, F. You can see it's related. It also contains the leading tone and the 4th scale degree from the scale upon which it was built. Those were the notes it had in common. Again, it's got a tritone in it, very unstable. It seeks up resolution and points toward home. Usually, home bass that is a half step higher above it, it's tonic. So it seems a little odd to move by half step like that. We're used to other kind of motion. But a leading tone chord often resolves up by half step to tonic. Again, 7's going to 8 and 4's going to 3. A lot of times it's perceived as a somehow manipulated 5-7 chord, but on its own, just as a regular 7 chord, it usually moves to 1. 7 chord almost always resolves to the tonic of the key. Make sense? A lot of times composers will use a 7 diminished chord, or not even a 7. They'll just use a fully diminished triad to fake your ears for a moment, because there's only one in every major key, right? There's only one of those chords, 1 diminished 7 in every major key. Because our ears so strongly hear a diminished 7 triad move to a 1 chord, they'll be in C major, and they'll use an E diminished chord to go to the F chord that belongs in C just for a minute, because they're trying to trick your ears into going, ooh, ooh, ooh. You know how your ears think a diminished chord moves up a half step and it thinks it's at home base? Your ears think you're at home base? Well, let me throw this diminished triad in real quick, just for a millisecond. Not changing keys, just making your ear go, oh, wait, that was like going 7 to 1. Oh, but you didn't. You just went a half step below the 4 chord. If you do that, that's not diatonic, because the diminished chord would have to be E, G, B flat, and we're in the key of C. So all I'm saying is composers will often take a diminished triad based theoretically from a 7 triad that is diminished and move up by half step to trick us just for a minute as to get a sense of relief a half step above. See what I'm getting at? Questions? Okay, cool. We did all this last time, so I don't think you guys need anything. Let's read through this one just for funsies. You ready? Because I did all my, all my drawings and ties and all that stuff. Are there any beats written anywhere up here? Yay! But we talk all the time and go things like, oh, look, the second beat has 4/16 notes on it. Yes, continue to speak that way. People look at you like you're nuts if you don't. But we all know there's no beats written there. It's only rhythms that are written. Good. What kind of meter is the first one? Compound meter. So that means if this is the pulse, 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 show me the first level of subdivision. Just tap it. Pulse, 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 pulse. Good. Now I'm on the second one, but I'm not changing my pulse, so hold your subdivisions there. I didn't change my pulse, but I'm looking at the second one now. Now show me the subdivision. Pulse, 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 pulse. Excellent. Okay, so we're in simple meter, same pulse. Take a second. You don't have to do it immediately. Go back to compound. Here's my pulse, 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 dun, dun, pulse, bump, bump, pulse, bump, 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 bump. Good. Stop. Go back to simple. Pulse, pulse, pulse. Good. Stop. Go back to compound. Good. Stop. Go back to simple. Good. Stop. Go back to compound. Good. Now see if you can do it without stopping when I ask you to. Compound, right? Yeah, we're compound. Ready and simple, go. And ready, not yet. Compound, go. And simple. Compound. Beautiful. Good. When you get that sense, that'll really help you with stuff. Something I want to bring up real quick because this comes up all month long. And it is critical. When we get to a metronome marking, when you were tapping out, I had a pulse going. When I asked you to tap out the subdivision for a compound, you did it beautifully. But when I was tapping my pulse, snapping my pulse here, in compound, what rhythmic figure matches that? What rhythmic figure matches my pulse, pulse, pulse? What rhythmic figure? What is it? Dotted quarter. Make sense? Right? If I'm in simple meter, and this is the same pulse, what rhythmic written notation matches my pulse? A quarter note. Not the same. This guy's dotted. It's got to be because there's 3 parts when you break it down. Make sense? So what I want to point out to you is when you have a metronome marking, in simple meter, the unit of pulse is a quarter note. In compound meter, the unit of pulse is dotted. Quarter note. Make sense? You're going to have to do, your projects involve metronome markings. You have to make sure you have metronome markings in. And I started to emphasize this because I would get the craziest things for metronome markings. Make sense? This is the unit of pulse in 4/4, or this type of simple meter, this time signature with this simple meter. This is the unit of pulse in compound meter in 6/8. Make sense? Okay, cool. All right, so let's look at the first one. 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 1 lolly, go. Clap and speak. And rest, second line. Good. Muahaha. You'll find throughout the month, I really genuinely try and set you up in both the solfege and the rhythm exercises to set you up in a nice pattern where you're getting the hang of things. But right here, I dug a big hole and put I put like straw and grass over it to see if I can get anybody to fall in. So the trap is always right around here. I made it a little more complicated and put these 2 figures back to back, and you guys did it really well. Try this one. Knowing there's a trap right around here somewhere. You ready? I'm going the same pulse. Pulse. Be careful. Pulse. Don't go yet. Same pulse. Show me the subdivision. Perfect. Show me 16th notes in this. Perfect. Okay, let it go. From the beginning, 1, 2, E, and a 3. Clap and speak. Go. It's slower than you think. 1, again, 2, ready, and here you go. 1. Go on. Go on. Rest. Sorry, those are 16ths. Still 16ths. 8th, 16th, 8th. Good. Makes sense? It's going to get weird. It's cumulative. You know, these are pretty straight ahead, but I want to make sure you guys can execute these rhythms perfectly and understand how they work mechanically, okay? Because things are going to get weird real fast. It's going to snowball. That's the rhythms from the first one, so you guys should just blow right through that, no problem. We looked at these. You're looking at them in lab. I know you got through, what, F and D minor in lab? You'll do G and E minor today, right? You're looking at those in lab. Unless you have questions, stop me. Okay, looking at those in lab, when you get to Aurelia, I just want to look at some tips for Aurelia. We did work through a progression the other day. All chords are in root position, right? You want to focus on the bass line. I cannot emphasize that enough. The bass line is your friend. Ladies, I don't know about you, but generally speaking, we all tend to hear where our own voice is better. So we're like kicking butt and taking names when we have to do melodic dictation, and the guys sometimes are struggling with that a little more. When it comes to bass lines, they may have a slightly easier time hearing bass lines. I've gotten better at bass lines over the years just because I had to do it so much, but we tend to hear better where our own voice is. So don't be dismayed, whichever end you're at. Just go with it. The more you practice, the better it gets. But keep in mind, bass line is your friend. Follow the bass lines. You want to find those interval movements from one root to another because everything's going to be in root position. Be aware of where you came from. And what was really awesome when you guys were working in lab the other day was when Jacob went through that really difficult, it was only 4 notes, solfege pattern that did not involve do. And what we were so excited, both of us were so excited about, is that you guys held do in somewhere subconsciously and you figured it out. That is monumental. So I'm really excited for you guys. This is related to that. Beware of where you just came from. You might not have come from do. You know, because obviously chord progressions can go anywhere. They don't hit do every other chord isn't a one chord. It's going to help you. Keep in mind where you came from, and you got to keep do as a reference. There you go. Be able to sing tonic for a reference, and up or down to the note. Like when I was struggling through trying to just solfege simple happy birthday, I was trying to find do, and I struggled to find it because it was duh. It was a leading tone, and I missed it. But you see the point. You got to know where do is to figure anything out. Make sense? When you're looking for your chords, obviously the first thing you want to do is get the bass line. The next thing you want to do is decide if the quality of the chord you're hearing above that bass line is major or minor, and use your smarts to decide. If it's a 2 chord and it's in root position, which it's going to be, what quality is the chord? Major, minor, diminished, dominant 7. What is it? 2 chord. What's the quality of a 2 chord? Minor. Even in polka dot major, it's minor. Even in sky blue, it's minor. Even in F major, it's a minor chord. In E flat major, the 2 chords are a minor chord. You get my point. That's why I want you to understand this formulaic thing. It's easy to apply over. So you want the bass line. You want to determine the quality of the chord above it because that's going to help eliminate things. I kept mistaking a 2 chord and a 4 chord. Duh. What's the problem with that picture? Why should I want to kick myself? What is so obvious about a 2 chord and a 4 chord that I should not have gotten wrong? Bingo. 2 chords minor quality, a 4 chord is major. And sometimes because the 2 chord contains the root of a 4 chord within its structure, I would get a little thrown and I would just like panic and go, oh, I can't tell what that is. It's 2 chord. No, it's a 4 chord. Wrong. Take a minute to just go, wait a minute, am I hearing the chord quality right? So you want to get the chord quality. Once you got that figured out, if you got a tonic chord, it contains the tonic note, right? However, the subdominant also contains the tonic note, but subdominant chord does not have the leading tone. 5 chord, on the other hand, doesn't have the tonic. The 5 chord does not have the tonic, but it does have the leading tone. It also contains the supertonic scale degree, which is 2nd scale degree. But the ones that are going to help you distinguish, because I'm not kidding, I honestly get stuck with, okay, I know that's one of the big ones. Is that the 5 chord or the 4 chord? I mean, I get in panic mode too, where I go, oh my God, I can't believe I can't tell if that's a 4 chord or a 5 chord. Well, duh. If it's got the leading tone, it's a 5 chord. If it does not have the leading tone, it's probably going to be the 4 chord. So, let me see. There's do. Will you sing do, please? Do. Do. Good. Keep singing do. Take a breath whenever you need it. You ready? Where'd that go? There it is. Keep singing it. Here's the 4 chord. Sounds okay. Back to the 1 chord. And there's your do. Keep singing. Take a breath when you need it. I'm going to play the 5 chord. It should sound awful. Ow. Do. Good. See if you can go down to the leading tone when I change. Can you go down a half step? Do, ti, do. You ready? Sing do. Leading tone. Back to do. Good. Just wanted to give you a quick overview of that if you're stuck between 4 and 5. One's going to have a leading tone, the other isn't. Okay? Of course, we just looked at all of this. Tonic is going to feel stable at home, home base. Dominant is going to be the least stable. It's going to have the most tension. It's got that leading tone in there. You should see fireworks and have like lights flashing. Chord qualities you're going to identify in your Aurelia work this, for this week. 1, 4, and 5, and 2 and 6 are also included. Root movements, be careful. I just want to go through these. They're pretty obvious, but it's just a little bit of help. If you go from 1 chord up to a 5 chord, that's a perfect 5th. Be careful. When you go a 1 chord down to a 5 chord, that interval is a perfect 4th. Make sense? Don't get that mixed up. I personally get all mangled around with, is this a 5 chord going up a 5th or a 4 chord going down a 5th? So be careful with that. Make sense? Okay. 5 down to 1. 5 chord down to a 1 chord is a perfect 5th. 5 chord up to a 1 chord is only a perfect 4th. That's so do. 1 up to 4 is a perfect 4th. 1 down to 4, here's the other side of that problem. 1 down to a 4 chord is a perfect 5th. So be careful with that. 4 to 5 is a major 2nd in either direction. Thank you, O Lord. 5 to 6 or 6 to 5. Moving those way, those are also just major 2nds in either direction. 1 to 2 is a major 2nd. 2 to 5, there's that dominant preparation. 2 to 5 is a perfect 4th. So you got to watch out for that because so to do is also a perfect 4th. Okay?